The Holy One, blessed be He, welcome to Beit Yisrael International's Voice of Torah podcast for the 5th weekly Torah portion, Parashat Chayei Sarah. In today's episode, our host agents, Abraham and Sarah, will guide us through the unique spiritual legacy of our matriarch Sarah, whose life exemplifies profound devotion and a deep connection to the divine. We'll explore the 3 miracles that filled Sarah's tent: the Shabbat candles that burned throughout the week, the blessing in her dove, and the cloud of the divine presence resting above her tent, each symbolizing the holiness she brought into her home. We'll also reflect on the significance of Sarah's life, recorded as 127 years, marking a completeness in her spiritual journey and devotion. All the years of Sarah's life were equal in goodness. Therefore, God extended Esther's influence to match the years of Sarah, granting her dominion over 127 provinces. Our mother Sarah's legacy continues to inspire us, showing the power of living a life filled with purpose and connection to Creator. Thank you for joining us, and may the light of Sarah, our princess, bless all our listeners.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another fascinating story from our tradition?
Always ready.
Wonderful. So today we're going deep on the life and legacy of Sarah.
Ah, the first matriarch of Israel.
Exactly. But we're going way beyond the typical dates and names approach you might find in a history book.
Sounds intriguing already.
We'll be exploring Parashat Chayei Sarah and some incredible teachings from Gaddi Efrayim. He's from Beit Yisrael International.
I've heard his insights are really powerful.
Oh, absolutely. So get ready for hidden wisdom, spiritual journeys, and maybe even a few surprises along the way.
I'm all ears. Tell me, what about Sarah's legacy are we going to be uncovering?
Well, there's so much to unpack, but one thing that really stands out is how her influence goes way beyond her own time.
Okay, I'm hooked.
We're going to explore how her actions actually rippled through generations and even connect to a queen story.
A queen. Now that's a twist I didn't see coming.
Oh, you'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds. But for now, let's start with something pretty basic. The Torah tells us Sarah lived to be 127.
Yeah, pretty impressive lifespan.
Right. But it's not just the total number of years that's interesting. It's how the Torah breaks it down. 100 plus 20 plus 7.
I've never really thought about it that way.
It's one of those details that might seem insignificant at first glance.
Right.
But Gaddi Efrayim sees these numbers not just as like chronological markers,
Right.
but as symbolic representations of her spiritual journey. It's fascinating.
I'm all ears. Break it down for me.
He explains that the first 100 years, those represent the purity and innocence of youth.
I see, like a time of learning and experiencing the world with that fresh sense of wonder.
Exactly. So it's not just about her physical age, but about a state of being.
Okay, I'm following you. So she's got the innocence of youth, then what?
Then we move to the next 20 years.
From 100 to 120.
Yep. And those represent the wisdom and maturity that come with experience.
Makes sense. She's taken all that learning from the first 100 years, and now she's applying that knowledge to navigate life's challenges.
With greater understanding, deeper insight.
So she's got the innocence of youth and the wisdom of experience. What about that final stage?
Ah, those last 7 years.
What about them?
This is where it gets really powerful.
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
According to Gaddi Efrayim, those 7 years symbolize a return to a childlike state of pure, unadulterated faith.
Wow.
After living through so much.
A whole lifetime.
She reaches this level of spiritual understanding where she sheds all the complexities of the world and just embraces faith with the simple trust of a child.
That is a beautiful concept, a return to that pure, simple faith. It really adds another dimension to her journey, so we see her personal growth through those numbers.
Definitely.
But she was so much more than just her own spiritual journey.
Oh, absolutely. Gaddi Efrayim makes it very clear that Sarah was instrumental in laying the spiritual foundation of Israel.
We often hear about the patriarchs, the fathers.
It's true. But Sarah's role...
Often less emphasized.
Way less emphasized.
But her influence wasn't limited to just her family.
Right. It extended outwards, impacting the entire community around her.
I'd love to hear more about that.
What specifically makes you say that? What evidence do we have for this broader influence?
Well, let's think about the miracles associated with Sarah's tent.
Oh, good point. The miracles.
For Shabbat candles.
Yes.
They'd miraculously stay lit from one week to the next.
Unbelievable.
Her dough, always blessed with abundance.
Wow.
And even the cloud of Shekinah hovered above her dwelling.
Okay, hold on. You mentioned the Shekinah. Just for anyone who might not be familiar with that term.
So-
Can you explain what it means?
Absolutely. The Shekinah is a Hebrew term. It essentially refers to the dwelling or manifestation of God's presence in the world.
So it's not God, per se.
Right. It's more like God's presence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a feminine word, which is interesting since we're talking about Sarah.
I never thought about that.
Often associated with a feeling of holiness, protection, divine guidance. So the fact that it rested above Sarah's tent, it suggests her home was considered a sacred space, a place where the divine and the earthly met.
So these weren't just random occurrences.
Definitely not.
They were pointing to something much bigger.
To her ability to create a truly sacred space, her home was more than just a physical dwelling.
It was a spiritual center.
Exactly. Her tent becomes a powerful symbol of her spiritual leadership.
An idea that's still relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Actually, Beit Yisrael International, the organization sharing these teachings about Sarah,
Yeah.
they actually draw inspiration from her example for the kind of spaces they aim to create in communities around the world.
So they're looking to Sarah's tent as a model
Yeah,
for creating these welcoming and spiritually vibrant spaces.
exactly.
Where people can connect with their heritage and learn about their traditions.
Precisely. They see her as a model for living a life of faith and righteousness,
Her tent is a vision.
for the kind of positive impact they hope to make in the world.
It's amazing to think that a story from thousands of years ago can still be so relevant. It's true.
So impactful today. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about another aspect of her story that I think often gets overlooked,
What's that?
her prophetic abilities.
Okay.
We know the story of Sarah and Ishmael,
Right.
how she had this strong intuition about the potential negative influence he could have on Isaac, and ultimately insisted that Hagar and Ishmael leave.
A very difficult decision.
It must have been,
Yeah.
and a controversial one for many people.
Absolutely. It's a story that's so powerful and often, as you said, misunderstood.
Right.
It really showcases Sarah's incredible foresight.
Foresight, okay.
Gaddi Efrayim teaches that we shouldn't just see this as a mother protecting her son, but as a spiritual leader protecting the entire future of Israel. Her intuition was so strong, and later, even confirmed by God.
Wow.
It really emphasizes her deep connection to the divine and her prophetic abilities.
When you look at it that way, it really changes the whole narrative, doesn't it?
For sure.
It's not just a family drama, it's a pivotal moment.
In shaping the spiritual destiny of a nation, makes you wonder, was Sarah always aware of this deeper prophetic role she was playing?
It's hard to say for certain, but what is clear is that she acted with extraordinary wisdom and courage, traits that obviously had a lasting impact on Jewish history.
Yeah.
And it really raises the question, if she had such strong spiritual insight,
No.
what can we learn from her about strengthening our own connection to the divine?
Oh, that is a great question. What does Gaddi Efrayim have to say about that? What are some of the practices or mindsets we can cultivate based on Sarah's example?
He points to several key aspects of her life that fostered her spiritual growth. First and foremost, her unwavering faith. No matter what challenges she faced, she never lost sight of her belief in God,
That's beautiful.
and she embraced the unknown. With remarkable courage. I mean, think about it. She left her comfortable life
In Ur.
to journey with Abraham into the wilderness. That takes a tremendous amount of trust and faith.
It's easy to romanticize that journey now knowing how it all unfolded.
Yeah.
But in that moment,
It must have been terrifying to leave everything behind and step into the unknown.
yet she did it with such strength and resilience.
Exactly. It reminds me of that saying, leap and the net will appear.
Yeah.
Maybe Sarah had a hand in weaving that net.
Oh, I love that. And it speaks to another key aspect of her spiritual development, her commitment to righteousness.
Right.
Sarah wasn't just passively believing.
Yep.
She was actively living her faith, making choices that aligned with her values, striving to make a positive impact on the world around her.
That's it. It's not enough to just say you believe in something.
You gotta live it.
Embody it in your actions, your choices, your interactions with others.
Sarah's story is a powerful reminder that faith is an active force, not a passive one.
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your beliefs and striving to make a positive impact on the world around you. And that's a message that resonates just as strongly today as it did thousands of years ago.
It makes you realize that even though her story took place so long ago, it's still incredibly relevant.
Oh, totally.
It's like she's offering us this blueprint
For sure.
for living a more meaningful, purpose-driven life.
And Beit Yisrael International sees that too.
Yeah.
They view her as a role model, and not just for women.
But for anyone seeking a life of purpose.
Exactly. Her legacy inspires them to create spaces where people can connect with their heritage, deepen their understanding of Torah, and find inspiration to build a better future.
Speaking of legacy, I can't let this conversation go by without revisiting that connection between Sarah's 127 years and the 127 provinces that Queen Esther ruled over.
Right. It's such a fascinating detail.
How does Gaddi Efrayim interpret this link?
No, it's a midrash.
A midrash.
Yeah, a type of traditional Jewish commentary on Scripture.
Okay.
That really highlights this idea of a ripple effect when it comes to righteousness. He suggests that Sarah's unwavering faith, her commitment to God's will, it didn't just end with her life. It created this spiritual legacy that extended far beyond her lifetime, ultimately impacting Jewish history through the actions of a queen who lived generations later. It's an incredible concept. Imagine the choices we make today, even the seemingly small ones, can have a profound impact on the future.
It really makes you think about the kind of legacy we're all creating, not just for ourselves, but for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. What kind of ripple effect are our actions setting in motion? What kind of world are we shaping for the future?
Those are profound questions, and it's a challenge to live with that awareness, to make choices that reflect our values and contribute to a world where justice, compassion, and righteousness prevail.
So in a way, we're all part of Sarah's story.
Totally.
We're all contributing to that ripple effect.
Absolutely. Her life serves as an inspiration and a reminder that each of us has the potential to create a legacy that transcends our lifespan, a legacy that shapes the future for the better.
Okay, I have to ask you, what stands out to you most about Sarah's story? What's the one takeaway you hope people will carry with them?
You know, for me, it's the idea that faith isn't just a belief system, it's a way of life.
I love that.
Sarah's unwavering trust in God, even when things were tough.
Yeah.
Her courage to face the unknown, and her deep commitment to doing what's right. Those are the qualities that inspire me to really think about how I'm living my own life,
Absolutely.
to make choices that reflect my values and try to contribute to a more just and compassionate world.
It's a beautiful thing.
Her life shows us just how powerful faith can be in shaping not just our own path, but the paths of generations to come.
It reminds us that Sarah wasn't just sitting back and waiting for things to happen.
No.
She was actively shaping her reality, and in doing so, she shaped the future.
Exactly.
It shows us that we all have that power.
We do. We have the power to create the kind of world we want to see, not by waiting for someone else to do it,
Right.
but by taking action, by living with purpose and intention.
This has been an amazing journey exploring Sarah's life and legacy with you.
It really has.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of her story and just how much her example can teach us even today.
It's been a joy to share this exploration with you. Sarah's story is one that deserves to be told and retold because it holds such timeless wisdom and inspiration.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Sarah's enduring legacy, we hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
We really have.
And as we reflect on everything we've discussed today, we're left with this final thought.
Okay.
If Sarah's story teaches us anything, it's that our lives have meaning and purpose.
We're not just random occurrences.
Every action we take, every choice we make contributes to a larger narrative, a story that goes far beyond our own lifespan.
That's right. We're diving into the miracle of Sarah's Shabbat candles staying lit all week.
Wow.
And 2 others.
Okay.
But the fascinating part is what these miracles reveal about her character and her lasting impact.
That's beautiful.
We'll be looking at sources like the Zohar,
Yes.
a key work of Jewish mysticism,
Uh-huh.
and teachings from Beit Yisrael International to guide us.
Wonderful. I'm
Yeah.
excited. This is going to be good.
This is going to be fun.
Absolutely.
Um,
What's so fascinating is how these miracles are kind of interwoven with Sarah's role as like a matriarch
yeah.
and the very essence of her home.
Okay.
They offer this glimpse into her unique spiritual power.
I like that.
Okay.
So let's start with that image of the everlasting light.
Okay.
Sarah lights the Shabbat candles, as we do today,
Right?
but they stay lit continuously
Wow.
until the next Shabbat.
That's incredible.
A full, unwavering flame, not just like a flicker.
Yeah.
That must have felt pretty incredible.
Yeah, it would have been truly awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
This unbroken light symbolizes like a constant flow of spiritual sustenance, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's a visual representation of Sarah's connection to the divine.
I see.
And her tent becomes a mikdash
Okay.
a miniature temple, a sanctuary where the divine presence resides.
So it's like her home becomes this like beacon of holiness radiating outward.
Yeah.
I mean, we all light Shabbat candles.
That's a great question.
What makes Sarah's home so special?
Well, the Zohar describes Sarah's light as a reflection of the Shekinah, the divine presence.
Right.
And what's amazing is that Beit Yisrael International's teachings,
Uh-huh.
based on the notes of Gaddi Efrayim, highlight Sarah's unique ability to elevate her home into a sacred space.
Interesting.
It suggests that she wasn't just passively receiving divine light,
I see.
but actively shaping her home into a space where holiness could dwell.
Okay.
It speaks to her spiritual strength and agency, which is something we can all learn from.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So this light isn't just a one-time event.
Right.
It becomes like a legacy.
Yes.
Passed down through her lineage.
Precisely.
Oh.
Think of Isaac and Rebekah.
Yeah?
They inherit this spiritual power, this connection to the divine that Sarah embodied.
Right.
It wasn't a one-time thing, but an ongoing inheritance.
That reminds me of how Jewish tradition often portrays like matriarchs as keepers of sanctity, nurturers of blessings.
Exactly.
It's not just about keeping a home tidy.
Right.
It's about cultivating an atmosphere of holiness.
Exactly. Sarah's story provides a vivid example of that. And it makes you wonder, how can we, in our modern lives, emulate this?
Yeah.
How can we create that sacred space in our own homes?
That is a really good question.
Yeah.
This idea of Sarah's everlasting light
Uh-huh.
really makes me think about how we experience Shabbat today.
Yeah.
Is there a way to carry that feeling of holiness, that sense of peace and connection
Right.
into the rest of the week?
That's where Beit Yisrael International's teachings are so insightful.
Yeah.
They use Sarah's light as a model for bringing sacredness into everyday life.
Uh-huh.
It's about finding those moments of connection, of intention, even amidst the busyness.
Right.
Maybe it's lighting candles during the week,
Okay.
creating a space for prayer or meditation,
I see.
or simply being more mindful of our actions and how we treat others.
Like bringing that mindfulness into everything. So it's like a reminder that holiness isn't confined to a specific time or place.
Absolutely.
It's something we can cultivate within ourselves and our surroundings.
And that brings us to another fascinating connection. Think about the eternal light found in synagogues today, Ner Kamid. In Hebrew,
Right.
it's a direct link back to Sarah's everlasting flame,
Oh,
a constant reminder of the divine presence.
I like that.
Just as Sarah's tent became a mikdash miyat, a miniature temple,
Wow.
the synagogue with its eternal light serves as a focal point for prayer and connection to the divine.
And when we light Shabbat candles in our own homes, are we tapping into that same energy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're not just fulfilling a ritual, we're
Right.
connecting to that potential for shalom bayit,
Okay.
peace in the home.
Peace in the home. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful reminder of the vital role women have played in nurturing and transmitting these blessings throughout generations.
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Light as a symbol of peace, holiness, and that potential to bring sacredness into our lives.
Right.
All it comes together so beautifully.
If Sarah's light represents this ability to bring holiness into daily life, what are some ways you can create a space for the sacred in your own home and routine?
Yeah.
What practices or rituals resonate with you and help you connect to something larger than yourself?
That is a great question to think about.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really stood out to me when we were prepping for this is that Sarah, she lived to be 127 years old.
Okay.
And Queen Esther ruled over 127 provinces.
Uh-huh.
And at first, I have to admit, I was like, oh, okay. Is that like a coincidence? Is that like a fun fact?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But then I was reading the work of this scholar, Gaddi Efrayim,
Okay.
and he suggests that there's actually a much deeper connection.
Real.
It's not just about the number 127, but what it represents.
I see. So it's not just a coincidence. You're
Yeah.
saying there's something more to it.
Yeah. So can you kind of unpack that for us?
Yes.
What does he see as the connection there between Sarah's lifespan and like the reach of Esther's rule. What's going on there?
Well, what's really interesting is that Ephraim, he connects Esther's success in saving the Jewish people, right, to the merit and the righteousness of Sarah.
Right.
And this righteousness was passed down through the generations.
I see.
It's almost as if Sarah's actions created this kind of spiritual reservoir, if you will,
Oh, wow.
that Esther could then draw upon
Interesting.
centuries later.
Wow. Okay. So it's like Sarah's righteousness is almost like a source of strength for Esther.
Exactly. Precisely.
Okay.
And it suggests that her courage, Esther's courage, and her wisdom in the face of all that danger wasn't just her own.
It was, in a way, rooted in the spiritual foundation that Sarah laid generations before.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty powerful idea.
It is powerful. It is powerful. And it makes
Yeah.
me think of that saying, we stand on the shoulders of giants,
Absolutely.
It's like Esther's success was built upon like this legacy that Sarah created.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
So this concept of righteousness as a legacy, this is the thing I really want to explore.
Okay.
Our sources also mention the teachings of Rabbi Akiva,
Yes.
and he emphasizes that the good deeds of one generation can benefit future generations.
Right.
So do you have any examples from his teachings that really highlight this idea of righteousness as a legacy?
Yeah. I mean, Rabbi Akiva, he often talked about zeshut avat, which translates to the merit of the forefathers.
Okay.
And he taught that the righteousness of our ancestors, of those who came before us, can create a kind of protective shield for the generations that follow.
Oh, interesting.
It doesn't mean life will be easy. Right?
Sure. But it can provide us with spiritual strength and guidance when times get tough.
Like a wellspring of resilience.
Exactly.
Passed down through the generations.
Yeah, you got it.
That's really powerful.
It is.
So it's almost like this spiritual safety net woven from the good deeds of our ancestors.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah, and it really does make you think about like the weight of our actions, right? Like what we do today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it matters.
It has an impact.
Yeah.
For sure.
So kind of shifting gears a little bit.
Okay.
Our sources also talk about Sarah as a precursor, right? Almost like her life was this blueprint or foreshadowing
Interesting.
for things that happen later on. What are some of the key events in her life that we see this foreshadowing in?
Well, Sarah's journey, especially her struggles with infertility.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the miraculous birth of Isaac. This is often seen as a parallel to the journey of the Jewish people towards redemption.
Okay.
So just as Sarah faced these seemingly impossible obstacles, the Jewish people have faced incredible challenges throughout history.
Yeah.
And just as God ultimately blessed Sarah with a child,
Right.
there's this deep belief that God will ultimately redeem and restore Israel.
That's a powerful, powerful parallel.
It is.
Now, we've got to talk about Kabbalah a little bit.
Okay.
Because our sources mention that, which is, I mean, that's a whole deep dive in and of itself.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But can you explain how Kabbalah views Sarah in this context?
So Kabbalah sees Sarah as a precursor to the Shekinah,
Okay.
which is the divine feminine presence in Jewish mystical thought.
Okay.
And just as Sarah's barrenness was transformed with the birth of Isaac,
Right.
Kabbalah suggests that the final redemption, the Messianic era, will bring about this full and radiant manifestation of the Shekinah,
Okay.
which will then guide Israel to this new era of peace and flourishing.
So let me see if I'm getting this right.
Yeah.
We're saying that Sarah's life and her actions, her faith, her righteousness, all of that is seen as foundational to the future of Israel.
Absolutely. It speaks to the lasting impact that our choices can have.
Hmm.
It's incredible to think that actions taken centuries ago can still shape the world we live in today.
It is. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so to recap Sarah's life, it holds so much significance, and not just in our own time, but really impacting future generations,
Yes.
and even offering us a glimpse into a messianic future
Yay.
where the Shekinah guides Israel to a whole new era.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vision.
It is. It is a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, if individual righteousness can have such a profound and lasting impact, it really makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what actions can we take today to create that ripple effect,
Right.
positive one for generations to come?
Yeah.
What kind of legacy of goodness, strength, and hope will we leave behind?
It's a really good question for all of us to think about, for sure. We're going to be looking at the mystical significance of Sarah's ages
Oh, yeah.
in Jewish tradition. And,
Right.
you know, we've talked about Sarah before. but we haven't really looked at
The ages.
the deeper meaning
No,
of the specific ages that are mentioned.
Right.
So get ready, because we're going to explore the numbers like 120 and 7
Interesting notes.
in a whole new light,
Right.
and
Yeah.
how they reveal a powerful model for...
Spiritual growth.
Yes, exactly.
Yo, it's more than just a
More than just a story.
Bible story. It's like
A blueprint for living a life.
Yeah, a blueprint
For aligned with...
for living a life aligned with divine purpose.
That's right.
Okay, so I was looking at the excerpts that you sent over, and one thing that really jumps out
Okay.
is that Sarah's age is mentioned like several times.
Yes.
Like it's repeated, and I'm
repeated in Genesis
and I'm thinking like, is that...
on purpose, or
Oh, it's definitely on purpose.
is it just like a coincidence?
It's not accidental at all. It's a doorway
Okay.
into deeper mystical meanings,
Okay.
especially within Kabbalistic thought.
So did you ever notice that before?
I think,
Like when you
you
were reading this stuff?
not consciously, but that's the beauty of these deep dives,
Uh-huh.
is that you start to look beyond the surface and you see these things.
Yeah, and then you're like, wait a minute.
Exactly.
What's going on here?
Right, and there's a framework here
Yeah.
for understanding spiritual growth,
Okay.
especially, like I said, within the mystical tradition of Kabbalah.
So we're talking about 120 and 7.
Right.
What is the key to kind of like deciphering
Well,
what those numbers mean?
you have to understand that in Kabbalah, numbers aren't just quantities.
Okay.
They're vessels
Mm-hmm.
of profound meaning.
Okay.
So take 100, for instance.
Okay.
The Midrash, which is a collection of rabbinic interpretations,
Right.
connects Sarah at 100 with complete mastery over the Yetzer Hara.
The Yetzer Hara. So
Yes.
for those of us who haven't really studied Kabbalah,
Right.
what is that?
Yetzer Hara is often translated as the evil inclination,
Okay.
but it's not necessarily about like being evil
Right.
in a conventional sense.
I see.
It's more about the inherent drive within us all that kind of pulls us away from our highest potential.
So it's that voice in our head that's like, you can't do it.
Right. Like the voice of doubt,
Fear,
or-
self-sabotage,
Yeah.
ego,
Yeah.
that can lead us astray.
So Sarah at 100 symbolizes overcoming those
Yes.
internal obstacles.
Right.
But what does that have to do with the number 100?
Well, in Kabbalah, 100 is connected to the Sephirot, which are 10 emanations of divine energy that make up all of existence.
Okay.
You can picture them like a tree,
Uh-huh.
with each Sephira representing a different aspect of God's attributes.
Okay.
So reaching 100 then symbolizes embodying the fullness of these Sephirot.
A state of complete spiritual wholeness and integration.
So it's not just about living a long life.
No, it's about achieving a profound level of
Reaching that.
spiritual maturity.
Yeah, spiritual maturity.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so then we have Sarah at 20,
Right?
and the text describes her as possessing both the purity of youth
Yes.
and mature spirituality. So how is that?
Well, it's a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
But have you ever met someone young who just radiates this wisdom beyond their years?
Yeah,
That's the energy of Sarah at 20.
got it.
It's about maintaining that youthful zeal and openness
Right.
while simultaneously cultivating deep spiritual awareness.
Like they bypassed all that cynicism
Exactly.
and disillusionment that
Right.
can sometimes
It
come
sometimes comes with
with age and experience.
age and experience.
So what does that look like
That's a good question.
in a practical sense?
It is a good question.
Like how do you balance
I think it's
those two seemingly opposite energies?
approaching life with a beginner's mind, no matter how much we've experienced,
Okay.
cultivating a sense of wonder and awe,
Mhm.
but also holding on to the lessons that we've learned along the way.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have this last age, which is 7.
Yes.
And this one really stood out to me.
Okay.
It says that it symbolizes the inherent holiness
Right.
of creation and the soul's connection
Right. To
the divine. And I'm thinking, wow, 7.
Yeah, 7 is an incredibly significant number in Judaism.
Right.
Think about the 7 days of creation,
Right.
the Sabbath, as the 7th day of rest,
Right.
a time set aside for connecting with the sacred.
Yes.
So Sarah, at age 7, embodies this primordial holiness,
Okay.
this pure and unadulterated link to the divine source.
Okay. So if Sarah at 100 represents achieving that spiritual wholeness, and 20 is balancing wisdom with youthful energy,
Yes.
then 7 is like that foundation,
Precisely.
that innate connection to something greater
Right.
that we're born with.
That we're born with. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
interesting. These aren't just random stages.
Right.
Gaddi Efrayim, whose work you shared,
Yeah.
sees them as a blueprint for spiritual growth,
Okay.
a model that we can all learn from,
So it's like her life
regardless of background or beliefs.
it becomes this roadmap,
Yes.
and you see the starting point,
Uh-huh.
the potential pitfalls,
You're right.
the ultimate goal.
Absolutely. And it really does make you think about your own ages
Yeah.
in a new light.
Yeah. What are the ages that have held
Right.
particular significance in your life?
Yeah. And what were the lessons and the challenges, the triumphs of those periods?
That's something I'm going to have to think about.
Yeah. It's worth reflecting on.
So we've uncovered some pretty profound symbolism
We have.
in just 3 numbers.
I think so.
Sarah's ages 100, 20, and 7
Yep.
offer not just a glimpse into her spiritual journey, but a powerful model for our own growth.
And the journey doesn't end there. As we move through life, we encounter new ages,
That's right.
new opportunities for growth and transformation.
What will those be?
What will those be for you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What meanings will you discover?
It's a deep dive we all get to take.
Exactly.
So for anybody listening who wants to explore these ideas further, be sure to check out Gaddi Efrayim's work at Beit Yisrael International.
Great resource.
Their website is www.beitisraelinternational.com.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us
My pleasure.
on this fascinating exploration.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.